Welcome to Tanya Outside In. We are chapter Yud Ches, which is a turning point in the Tanya. So from chapter, let's just go very quickly through. Chapter one introduces the Nefesh of Bahamis. Chapter two, the Nefesh of Lakis. Chapter three starts the mechanics of the Nefesh of Lakis. Chapter four is about the Levushim. Chapter five is about Torah. Chapter six, seven, and eight is basically about Klippa and the different breakdown of Klippa. Chapter nine is now the interplay between the Nefesh of Bahamis and the Nefesh of Lakis. Chapter 10 is Tzaddikim. Chapter 11 is Rashayim. Chapters 12, 13, 14, 15 is all about the Benoni. So that's like one shlav unto itself in a sense, yeah? That's like getting all the pieces in place. That's giving you the lexicon. That's allowing you to, it's letting you into the vocabulary that will allow you to understand Tanya, yeah? And I'll just tell you as a side point, this is really exciting, is I heard from people, many people, that I remember one time I said to someone, I felt that Tanya was like you can't learn the Kuti Moran if you don't know Tanya. Like Tanya explains a lot of the words and etc. As I said to someone. So he turned around to me in Jewish style and said, "You can't learn Tanya unless you know the Kisvei Ari." Yeah, which sounds like okay. I mean, what could I say to that? I've never looked at the Kisvei Ari, so I was like, okay. And then as I started learning Kisvei Ari, then I realized that in fact it's the other way round Legamre. Tanya is keys into the Kisvei Ari, not Kisvei Ari into the Tanya. So you need to know that eventually we will be getting to Kisvei Ari, but the Tanya is mamash keys. The way I see it, Tanya is a massive bunch of keys to unlocking mamash the Kabbalah. Mamash, it's really you should know that it's like learning Aleph. It's like a kid. You know, you're sitting there with your 4-year-old boy going Aleph, base, Gimel. He turns around and just says, "Oh, but what's the point of this? This is just so stupid. What am I going to do with all this?" And you're like, "Kid, you don't understand. This is the keys to everything. Right now, it's an Aleph, it's a base. It doesn't mean anything, yeah." But you realize you start putting these things together, it's going to open up doors that you don't even know exist. You're going to be opening up these doors. So
I
anyway,
just saw something from Morgenstern. He said what you just said about the Likutei Moharan. He said you need Tanya to understand the Likutei Moharan.
yeah, I heard that just recently. He heard that in the thing just recently. I saw
I just saw the pamphlet. Yeah,
Who said that?
from
Morgan.
Morgenstern.
Yeah, I mean that's Pasha. It's Pasha. The Kut Moran throws words around without any parish whatsoever, and you read through it whatever. And the Tanya also I suppose does that as well a little bit, but and it gives little explanations. But there was a Messiah that went along with it. I'm sure there is by Breslov as well. But it's Pasha that the Tanya gives you the lexicon that will also help you understand the Kut Moran. That's for sure. Okay, so chapter 15 is the Benoni. Then the gears shift a little bit. So it's very with the two chapters we just finished, which was 16, 17, is basically explaining like the avoider of the Benoni. The it's called the long road, which means it's our long-term job description. It's our long-term avoider, which means basically um, using your mind to transform who you are. And that is our long-term goal, and that is what we're here to do. I know that, the Tanya everyone says about behavioral perfection, and that's for sure. But the real avoider, yeah, kind of in a sense is like the behavioral perfection is kind of just assumed. The Rebbe is like, well, look, that's us, so you can't do that. You're like, okay. It's kind of assumed. Behavioral perfection is like a kind of given, a kind of given. But the real avoider is in the transformation of the person himself, in the midas. And I know it's possible to say that that's not what Atanya is about, and I hear you could argue that. But the way I see it is that the behavioral perfection is there as a kind of tool to to help you become a tzaddik. Meaning, when you behave like a mensch, when you behave like a tzaddik, that behavior feeds back into the system. You start to identify with that kind of behavior. And before you know it, your inner world starts to actually transform and become much more holy, much more single-minded in a good way. Okay, so that was patch 16, 17, which is basically the long road, the big avoider, the long-term avoider of the Benoni. Yeah. Now begins chapter 18. Now, chapter 18, 19 are like one unit. Then chapter 20, 21, 22 are one unit. And chapter 23, 24, and 25 are one unit. But they all make up one. It's one big unit. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Those eight prakim, you could argue 25, but we're going to include it, yeah? Those eight chapters are one big inyan split into a bunch of sections, okay? So chapter 18 is basically the foundation of the idea, which says, this is a spoiler alert, or whatever. Chapter 18, 19 basically says you would die for Hashem. You would die for Achdus Hashem. So pull yourself together and you might as well live it. That's basically, he doesn't say that last bit, but he says you would die for Hashem. Okay? Then chapters 20, 21, 22 basically are there to prove that all there is Hashem. Those chapters are very esoteric and they're all about Achdus Hashem and they're quite difficult. Okay? That's basically 20, 21, 22 is explained to you how Ein Od Milvadoi. There is only Hashem. There is Hashem and delusion. That's it. Anything that isn't Hashem is delusional. That's what those chapters prove. Yeah. Then he says by 23, which is about Torah mitzvahs, is so if all there is God, how do you relate to God? There's only one way of relating to God. It's called Torah. There is no other way of relating to God. Everything else is dimyonis. Everything else is imaginary. Yeah, the only way of relating to God Himself is through Torah. So what happens when you're engaged in Torah? If all there is God and you engage in Torah, which is the only way to God, then you merge with God. That's chapter 23. 24 says, well, what about when you do Averas? And then he says, well, if you do Averas, you merge with the opposite of God. You fall out of reality, the Gamre. And then 25 is about basically our avoider on this level, which is basically predicated on this idea of if you would die for it, well, then you might as well live for it. Which is like, pull a guy out of, some kind of workaholic guy in Silicon Valley, yeah? He's got two little kids at home, and he's working 20-hour days. And you turn around to him and say, would you die for your children? He's like, of course I would. Would you give everything up for your children? Of course I would. Well, how come you don't see your children like from week to week, Bichlal? That's a bit weird, no? So that's really where we're going with this. Okay, so it's a real journey, but that's kind of the destination. Okay, so first things first, we're going to show that you would give up your life for God. Then we're going to show that all there is God. And then we're going to say, well, this happens when you learn Torah, and this happens when you do the opposite. So you might as well be involved in Torah mitzvahs. That's the on one leg. Okay, so we're any questions?
Well, just a comment is I heard that's what Rav Noach Weinberg used to do, is he would go up to people and say, would you die for Hashem? And if they said yes, he says, fantastic, then let me show you how to live for Hashem, and he would bring him into Aish Torah.
Yeah. He said that he was very famous for saying that if you don't have something to die for, then you don't have something to live for, which is great. Because I remember it was only recently that I had this revelation in my mind. It was like I kind of said to myself, thank God I'm not the center of thank God I'm not the purpose of my existence. That's so depressing, thinking that I'm the purpose of my existence. Like I want to be able to serve. I want to be able to do for. I'm so small. Like we said that time. I think one of the issues with like people take pictures of their food on social media a lot. Like WhatsApp's full of pictures of food. I think one of the main reasons for that is that people think it's wasted on them. Like just me just getting pleasure from this. Like, what am I? They internally they're like, at least let me share it around a little bit, you know. I really think that's where that's from. That idea of just like I'm not enough to work hard for. I'm really not. But tell me that I've got a job. Tell me that I've got a place in this cosmic ensemble. Yeah, and I've got a specific role that I need to play. Then I'm mummish. I'm there 100%. 100%. Okay, so Per Yudches. Le Tesefes Beer Behativ. Let's get this clear. Milas Ma'oid. There's the word Ma'oid, but Shabapasuk Kikoy Velecha Dava Ma'oid. It doesn't say this thing is close to you. It says this thing is very close to you. So what does it mean very close to you? By the way, Ma'oid is Oisius Odom. And it's also when we say Moide Ani, yeah, Moide Ani, if you let go, I'm not going to explain this right now, but there's what's called soft letters and hard letters. If you let go of the soft letters, the hard letters that remain are Mem, Aleph, and Daled. Ma'oid again. Yeah, Ma'oid, like the word Chain, Kaf, Nun, in my opinion, are two of the holiest words in the Torah. Like when you see the word Ma'oid and you see the word Chain with a Kaf, yeah, there's big things going on. I mean, there's always big things going on, but like these are big Hasidic words. Both those words, Chain and Ma'oid. Yeah, Ma'oid is huge, huge. We'll talk about the word Ma'oid for ages. Okay, so what does it mean that it says Ki koev alecha davar Ma'oid v'chulei? Tzrich leider ne'emani. You need to know with absolute certainty. Ki af mi shedatei katsara b'yedias Hashem. That even a guy whose das is very low, he's got a very unpowerful mind. Yeah, b'yedias Hashem. V'ein lo leiv lavim gedulas ein baruch hu. He's also not particularly hearty as well to understand these are in yanim of gedulas Hashem. Basically, Shachris won't make such an impact on this guy. To give birth to emotions. Yeah, afilu b'moichem v'tavuno is levad. Even the convictions we spoke about in chapter 16, yeah, and 17 a little bit, where he can't even get a conviction. He's really like he's not a powerful, he doesn't have a powerful mind. Yeah, but to say the least. Afal Pichen, even so, this guy who can't even do the avoider that we spoke about just now, of generating these seichel dika emotions, these convictions. Afal Pichen karoiv alav hadavar ma'oid. This thing is very close to him, meaning avoidus Hashem is very close to him. Lishmor v'la'asos kol mitzvahs ha'Torah v'talmud Torah keneged kulam. To guard and to do all of the mitzvahs of the Torah, all of the shasa mitzvahs lo yisaseh, all the ramach mitzvahs aseh, v'talmud Torah keneged kulam, and that means also filling in every spare second you have with Talmud Torah. Yeah, b'fiv u'levavoy mamash, with his mouth and with his heart mamash, me'umka deliba. From the depth of his heart, meaning from the truest place, the emes la'amitoi, in absolute truth, emes la'amitoi. These are big words. But with fear and love, she ava mesuseres, believe klalis Yisrael. What is this love? It's called the ava mesuseres. Yeah, now the ava mesuseres isn't actually really a love in the conventional sense of a word. The Ava Mesuseres is describing the bond of you with Hashem. It's describing the Jewish bond with the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's called an Ava Mesuseres, which means the hidden love. Yeah, but it isn't love in how we know it. It's literally Ava Mesuseres is a code word for saying you and God are one. Finished. Period. Full stop. You and God are one. The essence of who you are, and that's why he said Umka Deliba. Remember, the highest point of the system and the deepest point of the system are always the same. It's just two ways of speaking. It's like calling a dime 10 cents. 10 cents, 10 cents and a dime is the same thing. It's just 10 cents is in relationship to a dollar, and a dime is in relationship to I don't know, something else. Yeah. So too, the highest point is one way of talking about things, and then the deepest point. So Kesser's the deepest and it's the highest. Yeah. Malchus is the lowest and it's the most chetzonius. That's just the same thing. Okay, so when he says from umka deliba be'emes la'amitoi, that's exactly what he's referring to. The most true thing about us. This chapter is so relevant to us in our generation, where our service is coming from this point of, because Hashem's taken away all of the ruchnius pleasures, and we don't care about Olam Haba anymore, and no one cares about Gehenna, and it's like, so what? Why are you serving God? And it's so easy to just, not serve Hashem anymore. You could, no problem. People still, if you're a kid, your parents will probably love you more than the other children because they're trying to make nice to you, whatever. So it's like Hashem's made everything so easy. You can pete it out, you can snuff out, you can burn out, you can get connected with whatever one you want. You can look at the Torah in any way you want as well now. You can drush it in any which way you desire now with chatbot and all the different, check out all the different rabbis on YouTube. You can go whatever direction you want. And so now this is where this is the avoider, this is the place that the avoider comes from, which we said before. When you've got someone standing over you with a whip saying, if you learn Torah, I will destroy you, yeah? There's a much bigger time to learn Torah than when you've got somebody standing over you with a Gemara saying, if you don't learn Torah, I'm going to beat you up. Much more motivation when Stalin's telling you not to learn than when the Rosh Hashiva is telling you that you must learn, yeah? And the whole world now is telling you must learn. Everyone's telling us that. That's why when they came from Russia, they got to New York, yeah. So many Yidden who were like Moise Nefesh in Russia just became fry. They just literally fried out, mamash. And that was the Lubavitch Rebbe said, because at this point, when you don't have Stalin standing over you with a gun, and you've got everyone standing around you with Gemoras, yeah, your Yiddishkeit needs to come from a much more. It needs to come from Umka Deliba. It needs to come from the Kisrei Kesarim Mamash. It needs to come from the deepest, highest place in you, your Mamash, your Yiddishkeit. That's where we are. I believe that with all my heart now. All of us sitting here in this Zoom conference right now, we're all serving Hashem exclusively from that deepest place inside ourselves. And most of the people we know as well. That's how Hashem's wiggled the world, the way I understand it. So this avoider is available. And it's called the Ava Mesuseres, Shebelev Klalis Yisrael, that exists in the heart of every Yid. She Yerusha Lanu Avoseinu. It's a Yerusha. It's a love that was inherited from our fathers. But we have to preface this with getting something clear. Yeah. Number one, Shirish Ava Zuva Inyana. What's the root of this love? Like, what is it? Eichi Yerushalanu. How can it be a Yerusha? Yeah. The Eich Nichla Bagam Techilu. And how is there also included in it fear? So these are the three questions. The three questions that he's going to now explain over the next few chapters. The three questions are, what is it? Yeah. How can you inherit love? And how is fear included in it? So I can explain this now, but I think we'll go with the text and he'll explain it better. The Inyan. This is the Inyan. I mean, I suppose it's important to say that the question of inheriting love, like, it makes sense, yeah, that if your dad is a very kind of loving guy, yeah, then you'll be a loving guy. There's a good chance that will be, yeah. So to inherit a loving nature, that's very logical. But this is the point is you can inherit a loving nature, but you can't actually inherit a love for someone or something. I mean, just because your dad has a loving nature, that doesn't mean that you're going to love who he loves. So this is the point. We're saying that this love is an actual love for God. So we're asking, how can that be an inheritance? Because if you just have been given a loving nature, then love dafka it would be for Hashem. It could be for anything. So that's what we're going to be. Oh, that was really the first.
We do find that our kids love a lot of similar things that we do, not just in terms. It could be genetics, or it could be they just have that same personality type, and happens to be those are the outlets that that those things are drawn to, I guess.
I mean, they could love the thing that they could, but you can't inherit that. That would be something you learn. Meaning, if you love your next door neighbor, yeah, because he's such a nice guy, you're a loving person, and you love your next door neighbor because he's such a nice guy. If your kid is born with a loving nature and then goes off to boarding school for 25 years, he's not going to love your neighbor. If he's in your house and he sees you loving your neighbor, talking about him, etc., then he will probably connect his love to that person. But that's not called a Yerusha. The Yerusha part of the love can't be predicted. It's a trait. You can't predict where a trait's going to go. You with me? You got that, Gabriel?
Yeah. I'm just pointing out that our kids often are attracted to the same things that we're attracted to, and not necessarily from their environment.
I mean, I don't know how you'd be able to say that. You couldn't be separated, could you? Anyway, the point is that from what I learned from Rav Yoel Khan is and from Rav Manis as well, is that you can inherit a nature, a certain kind of nature, but where that nature connects itself to, that's nurture. That can't be inherited. That has to be learned. That has to be learned. So this love is not a learned love. This love is kulu inherited. It's a genetic. It's a spiritual. It's a spiritual genetics. Okay, so this is the Inyan. The Inyan. We're going to use a little bit of Kabbalistic language, but it's not. It's easy. You just have to hold cup. Ki avos hayin hayin markova. The avos were the markova. This is predicated. The whole thing's predicated on this, meaning that the avos were godly. They became mamash elakustic. It wasn't that they were just really worked out people. They were qualitatively different to everyone who came before them and everyone who came after them, I think. They were, well, not really, that because we're similar to them, but they actually became godly. That means they were a markova. They became the markova, meaning they became so nullified to Ribono Shel Olam that it started with Abraham, and Abraham, the neshama, the Jewish neshama, the way I learned, was passed down from tzaddik to tzaddik from Adam. Yeah, and it went through to Shais, and then like to Chanoich or Mesushalach to Chanoich. It went through a bunch and got to Noach. Yeah. But it never became integrated into the mensch. It never was absorbed by the mensch. I don't mean by the goof of the mensch, but the mensch. Yeah. It was this guy, Mesushalach, had Nishmas Yisrael stuck to him. But he was not Jewish. He was not Yisrael. Noach was not Yisrael. By Avraham, a new Metzias began, and that Nishmas Yisrael started to merge with the mensch. Yeah. Then Avraham expelled a bunch of psoiles. That was called Yishmael, and what was left was Yitzchak, who that merging became even more profound. He really merged with it. And then from Yitzchak got rid of his Besoilus, which was called Esav, yeah? And Yaakov now became the he was called Yisrael. He became Yisrael, meaning that Nishmas Yisrael, it wasn't that he now had Nishmas Yisrael stuck to him. He became Yisrael. That's why his name was Yisrael. And we are now the Bnei Yisrael. So it was a merging. It began with Avraham and it went weiter with Yitzhak. And by the time of Yaakov, that was when it merged. And therefore, Yaakov didn't have any Pesolis in his children. There was no expulsion of anything treif. It was shiftei ka, kulu kodesh. That was how that worked. Yeah, do I understand it? That's what I learned that from Manas. Um, so when it says that the others hein hein makova, ואוקיי זכו להמשיך נפש ונשמה לבניהם אחריהם עד עולם מעשר ספירס לקדושה שבאה בעולם הביע לכל אחד ואחד כפי מדרגסוי וכפי מעשיו. Because they were the Merkava, meaning, and this is really the ultimate. I mean, this is our kind of proof that evolution isn't a Metzias, because basically he's saying here is that because the others became godly, they had godly offspring. They had godly offspring. Just like a monkey gives birth to monkeys, and a dog gives birth to dogs, and plants give birth to other plants. Yeah, Jews give birth to Jews. And that will always be the case. So that was the idea. They were zeicha to now be mamshich nefesh u'neshama to their children after them forever from the Esesferes Kedoshas. We've explained before how the Jew how Yisrael is nimshach after the father. I've definitely said it. This is one of the most profound things that I've ever heard. You know this? Does everyone know this? Yitzi, you remember I said this before?
I think so, but you have to repeat it again.
Yeah, okay. So the way it goes, Eliezer, you'll really appreciate this. When I heard this, I literally like nearly fell off my seat. Literally fell off my
Can I
seat.
take a stab? Are you talking about before Matan Torah? It was after the father?
No, no, no. After Matan Torah, to this day, your Yiddishkeit goes after your father. What
What?
are you talking about, Shmuel? You're mad. Okay, I understand that if a Jewish man, let's say it goes after the father, yeah? Goes after the father, not after the mother. That's ridiculous. Okay, fine. I'll give you this. The Jewish man has relations with a Goyish woman, yeah? And somehow in the 9 months of gestation, the Jewish soul is destroyed. Chaz v'shalom, yeah? Fine. But what about a non-Jewish man with a Jewish woman? If it goes after the father, how could it be that the child's Jewish? And I'll tell you, just before I say this, firstly, Rav Manis told this to me in a one-on-one meeting. Rav Hass told this to me in the Shame of the Arizal, and I've seen it in the Or Chaim as well. This is mamash, this is normative Judaism, yeah? Yeah, Mayor.
Isn't that why Paro decided to destroy the male babies? Wasn't that part of the Nevuah?
Probably that, but I mean, back in those days, it was different anyway. It was different. But now in our generation, where I think in those days, it anyway was Beferish went after the father because
It would have made more sense to destroy the female babies. It would have been a lot harder for us to propagate the world. But okay, whatever, fine.
So anyway, so this is what Rav Manis explained to me. What Hass explained the same thing to me, and the Or Chaim said, the way I understood it, is that why we said before, the Jewish man with the non-Jewish woman, the zera is the neshama is destroyed, and by as a side point, the Or Chaim says there that the child born from that union, yeah, of a Jewish man with a non-Jewish woman will become a Soni Yisrael. Become a Soni Yisrael. That was that. So how can it be that a non-Jewish man can have a Jewish child through a Jewish woman if it's all about the man? And as I heard in the name of the Arizal, is that non-Jewish man had Nishmas Yisrael davuk to his Goyish soul, and it was part of the process that it was those Nitzots Yisrael that came out through the Jewish woman. It was he made the shidduch, so to speak. Don't tell anybody this. Yeah, anybody who's not is in this parsha b'chlal, but he made that shidduch, so to speak, to pull out the Nitzots Yisrael from the goy and to give birth, to bring them into the world as Jewish children.
Shmuel, can you say that again? But not, there's a lot of like terms I'm not familiar with. Maybe in English a little more, if possible.
A non-Jewish man, yeah, has if the reason why a Jewish baby is born from a non-Jewish man and a Jewish woman, even though it goes after the man, is because there were sparks of Jewish souls, sparks of souls of Yisrael stuck to in his vicinity that came out through him into the Jewish woman and gave birth to a Jewish child. So it is after the father. And just as a very important point, and this is my big question right now with AI, making music on AI, is how do you know that it goes after the father without having heard everything that I just said and not knowing about how the actual halacha is? How do you know that the neshama goes after the father, that the actual nefesh goes after the father?
Maybe because a Cohen, as the Cohen, a Levi, Yisrael, Yisrael.
No,
Isser of Hotzasar Levatala.
no.
Last name, keep the last name.
Avachai. Avachai. In a zivug, the zocha needs rotzon. The nekeva does not need rotzon. Someone can be ma'anes, a girl could be raped and give birth. Yeah, there is no inyan of hoilada of reborn neshama without rotzon. Rotzon is nefesh. Rotzon is mamshish nefesh. And this is my whole. The male aspect needs avachai by physiologic. Everyone knows what that means, yeah. Yitzi, you know what that means? Avachai.
You're saying it all comes mentally from the man?
Avachai means physiologically the man needs to have a will physically. If there's no will by the man, nothing works. Yeah, it doesn't happen. So he needs Avachai. Yeah. So that is what is mamshich. That's what is mamshich the nefesh, the Avachai, meaning the rotzon. And this is the question that I've had now with all this music that I'm making, is because people said, well, that how we had that whole argument on the B'nai Eli on the chat is, well, I felt that it didn't have a neshama. And I was like, and I thought, well, of course not. It's just AI. And then I'm like, wait, the only reason why that song exists exclusively is because of my Rotzon. And I spoke to a Moshe Chanet about this, who's a big Talmud Chacham who knows stuff like this. And I presented him both sides, and he was like, good question. No idea. Yeah, like how much of me is in those songs? And I actually think, after having thought about this a lot and listening to those songs a lot and having heard people's feedback from it, I think that I'm really that my nefesh is very much in that music, like very deeply in that music, which is an amazing thing. Because I always thought that
there's a deep halachic correspondence to this shaila is if you have a machine, right? Can you when a goy does a shchita or makes matzah, it's not lishma. because he has his own Ratzon. But when a robot or a monkey does it, it could be, right? A machine making matzah could be Lishma, you turned it on. So you put your Ratzon really is what drives the whole machine. The machine has no opposite Ratzon.
Yeah. Wow. So what's the
So
halacha? I never heard that before.
no, I'm saying this is a shaila about if you can have a robot or a
Ah,
machine or a monkey do mitzvahs for you, if he could be your shliach to do certain mitzvahs, because you're the one that made it do it. Right? Again, I'm not holding in
yeah.
sugya,
No,
but I'm just
I
saying
understand what you're
it comes
saying.
up in many places in Shas, this
Yeah,
idea.
that's interesting. So just in regards to this music I've been making on the with the AI, like I mean I've been using AI a lot now, yeah. And it's like it made me think like we talk about getting the neshama of someone through their music. Like don't listen to like 50 Cent because why do you want him coming into your world? Whereas listening to like Avram Fried or Shlomo Katz is a Gewaldiger thing. Yeah, it's like I was thinking that's not fair. Like, why can I only get get the nefesh of like musicians? That's like 1% of the people, Only a few people in the world are like really good at music. Why is it only their nefesh that I can get? Why I want to be able to receive the nefesh of like really big tzaddikim, Like, but they can't do music, so what? So I can't. I listen to Torah, fine. But I was just saying, like, maybe this is all changing now. Like with the world right now, with the AI is taking away all this need for skill, the skill in the hands, it's taking it all away, and everything's going to Rotson. It's being Mavare Rotson, which is for me, it's like that's makes so much sense. Like Alpi, your Moisa Mashiach and Asid Lavoy and the final Birur, that all of this like skills in your hands, which are really like at the end of the day, what are they? They're all everything's being leveled out and there's just Rotson being bare, like bare Rotson. Where's your Rotson? Where are you? Who are you? You're for him, you're for you. That's like what's left. That's what I feel is getting not right now, but it's getting brought to the surface. You know, I'm creating art now. I'm creating music, and I'm even writing in a way that I could never have written a year ago. I could never have done anything like what I'm doing now. What all of a sudden I become very talented? No, talent has just become much less relevant. Talent has just become much less relevant. The AI is taking care of the talent aspect. So now all there's left is the prompting and the Rotson behind it. And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me, LP, the big picture of everything, where really all it is, it always comes down to Rotson. That's what the whole game is. That's what we understand.
Well, if it all comes from a Jewish man, then why does it die when the non-Jewish woman? If that's the ikr, then it should hold strong, and the seed should continue and to be born
So
Jewish.
that's the way that's what we said before is that if the Jewish man if that seed that needs so it's that spark of Yisrael is in the non-Jewish woman for 9 months at such a stage, then it kind of destroys it.
Mhm.
That was the idea, yeah. And then was it the Orheim I think said that yeah, the tikkun. I'm pretty sure that he said this. The tikkun for that neshama, that oh no, it wasn't. Oh wait, yeah, no. Yes. The tikkun for the not it's difficult to say this, yeah. The tikkun for that soul that the Jewish element got destroyed in is that it should be killed at the hands of a yid.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what the Orchaim said. That's the
Please
tikkun
strike
for
that one
that.
from the recording.
What? I should record it from the recording. Hopefully this is. I mean, the way it's going, no one listens to it anyway. So doesn't matter. Okay, let's get to a stopping place. Let's go and drop more. Is it? Oh, cool. Punnet. And this is a good place to hold. We'll hold here. This is a good place to hold.
Yeah, and if you want views, you should title it that. If you want views.
Yeah.
Wait, well, I don't. We got to do a 30-second soundbite like we were doing for a while about this AI thing. That was really amazing.
Wait, one sec. I'm gonna stop recording.